Welcome back. It's the Flow Sports Hour on Flow FM. The Apollo Bay Legends Expedition Race kicks off this weekend. Chris Dixon, the race director, is on the line to tell us more about it. Great to have you here, Chris. How are you?
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, really good. Out and about in a beautiful part of the world at the moment. It's sunny weather, so just enjoying being outdoors, putting this course out.
I am going to read out what the website says, and for anyone not familiar with what the Legend Expedition Race is, you're going to tell us all about it, but on the website it says, this is where legends are made, feats of epic endurance, pulling together when everything falls apart, pushing on when everything in you wants to hit the emergency button, helping your mates and pushing to the edge of what's possible. Discover what you're made of, the stuff of legends. So based on that, sounds pretty full on.
Yeah, wow. I guess put that together, and it is absolutely true. This would be the toughest race in Australia. I mean, yeah, there's stuff that's longer. There's stuff that's, harder in sections, but adventure racing and particularly expedition racing is absolutely the toughest sort of sport you can participate in. It's up to 6 days long. Probably the winning team will take 3 to 4 days to get it done, and then the tail end teams will come over the line after 6 days. But yeah, absolutely. It's just right up there with difficulty. But, it's amazing what, people can do when they put their mind to it and yeah, as I said, work together with their mates to get it done.
All right, so let's go through some of the details of this race. First of all, what exactly is it? It's not just a marathon or a triathlon, is it? There's many, many elements to it.
Yeah, so adventure racing or expedition racing it's mountain biking, kayaking and trekking, and sometimes, other disciplines. So, climbing or, whitewater rafting or ocean kayaking or something like that. It's over an unmarked course. So there's a series of about 50 checkpoints out in the region at the moment, and teams need to navigate using a map and a compass to each of those checkpoints to collect them before moving on. And there's different disciplines they would use. So, for example, this one's got 13 legs in it, and they'll chop and change from, mountain biking to, this is a trek leg, and then they'll get on kayaks, and then they'll get back on their bikes for a bit, just basically work their way through a series of legs. And really importantly, it's not a relay. It's a team-based sport, so teams of 2 or 4, and they have to stay together the whole time and help each other to get it finished.
So with teams staying together and kayaking, biking, and probably needing different clothes as they cross different terrains at different times of day and night in different weather and all these different elements, are they carrying all this gear with them the whole way, or how does that side of things work?
Yeah, so there's a series of transition areas. So when they sort of transition from one discipline to another, we make sure they all have a bike box. They actually have 4 tubs of gear. So we just place those strategically around the course. So, they get into a transition area, say transition 3, they know they're going to get a bike box. They know they've got a box of, food and supplies and that sort of stuff and whatever gear they need for the next leg. So yeah, they don't have to carry everything, but there is a pretty extensive, mandatory gear list. Because obviously people, we're traveling, some of the legs 80, sometimes 100 kilometres long. Into the wilderness, and so obviously they need to be really well equipped. So they carry thermals, rain jackets. They have to have a tent. Some choose to take sleeping bags. Some take a little lightweight bivy sack. But yeah, they take everything they need for that particular leg, but then they resupply in between legs.
And when you say between legs, is one leg considered one full day, or is one leg more, the kayaking leg, and then you get off the kayak and you go to a cycling leg?
Yeah, well, I think that's what's probably different about expedition racing as opposed to a stage race. So this is not a stage race; it's just a straight through. So we don't, require people to stop at any particular time to sleep. They really need to decide when they're going to stop, and if they want, they could just go straight through. So I think in the last Legend expedition race in Jindabyne last year, we had one team go for a full 60 hours before stopping, which was pretty awesome. But teams will generally stop, maybe not the first night, but they'll definitely stop for a few hours on the second night, rest and recuperate. But yeah, they race right through the night, which is certainly a challenge, but also what makes the sport so unique and interesting.
Certainly very different from a stage race, like you said there. It's just full on non-stop just about, and sleeping only if they want to and if they choose to. How competitive are the races? Is there... Yeah, I mean, are they desperate to win? I take it that if there are people who are choosing to stay up for 60 hours straight, just continuously on the move, that they're pretty eager to cross the line first.
Well, it's funny. It's pretty competitive. But, at the end of the day, we're all really racing against ourselves and are really just trying to see how far we can go. But, once you're out in the course, you see another team, you really want to get in front of them. So teams are, using their sleep as a strategy. They're waiting till it gets dark and sneaking past other teams. They're really, planning ahead to really cross that line first. And we've got a couple of pretty competitive teams, but we've also got a bunch of teams that are just, out there for the experience and, trying to get it done. So, real mixed bag, but it's a race.
So all in all, what distance are the races going to be travelling?
Well, so we plan the course around about 450 to 500 kilometres. So it's quite long. But because teams are choosing their own routes, sometimes there's sort of shortcuts they can take depending on how good the navigation is. But sometimes, if your navigation's not so crash hot, it takes a bit longer. So it'll be between 400 and 500 kilometres. And certainly, I measure it out with the GPS and that sort of stuff. And then once you actually get out in the course and you go back and forth a little bit, it can stretch out. But about 400, between 400 and 500 kilometres long is how long the race is. So pretty epic.
Wowee. And the team sizes, is it just teams of 2, teams of 4? Can teams go as big as 8 to 10 people and sort of all work in tandem?
Oh, look, it's a teams of 2 or 4. Historically, it's always been a 4-person team, but just with technology and some of our safety systems now, we can really keep a good eye on people with GPS trackers and that sort of stuff. So, we're letting teams of 2 go for the first time this year, probably because a lot of the trails are quite accessible, if there is an emergency. But certainly on races where we go into real, remote areas, which does happen, it'll generally be a team of 4. But that's it. Sometimes teams choose to travel with other teams. A bit of camaraderie out in the field. That'll last for a few days. But, then teams push on their own and really are running their own race.
And when you say you can keep an eye on some of the races, is that an issue? Do you ever lose races? I mean, it's a long way, and there's a lot of elements to it. I imagine, especially with the self-navigation, it would be pretty easy to find yourself lost in the wilderness. Does that happen often?
Absolutely. Well, we don't lose them, so we give them all.
That's good.
We give them all, depending on the location, either GPS trackers or satellite trackers, because there's sort of mobile signal around a lot of this area. They've got GPS trackers. So if you're keen to follow along the race, you can log on to the website, and you can actually dot watch. People move through the course, which is pretty fun. We have a whole community of dot watchers right around the world. Actually, who'll be tracking the race. But it does mean we can see where they are, but they don't know where they are. So it's a technology-free race. They're not allowed to have phones, not allowed to have GPS devices that they can see at all. So they're having to rely 100% on their navigation ability to read a map and follow a compass, and knowing where they are or not at any given time. And certainly, teams get lost, which is unreal. We watch them. You can sort of see they're heading down the wrong way, and we wait. A few hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, hoping they turn around. But if they really are going well and truly off course and clearly lost, we would plan to go and meet them and turn them around. But look, it's an adventure and an experience, and sometimes getting lost is all part of that.
Well, you got to put a lot of trust in your own instincts, that's for sure. And
absolutely.
You've obviously organised a lot of these before and done them all around Australia. What's Apollo Bay looking like? What's the course like down there?
Oh, look, it's unreal. It's such a beautiful area. I guess something I didn't mention, one of the unique things about these events is people actually don't know where they're going to go before they turn up to the race. So teams actually don't know what they're doing. Oh, they know what they're doing. They know they've got 12 or 13 legs. They know that when they're biking, when they're kayaking, but they don't know where. On race day, 2.5 hours before the race start, they get their maps, and then they have to plan their route, accordingly. I wouldn't want to give away where the course is, but I can give you a few hints. It's, we're kicking off with a bit of an ocean paddle, and then, we're going to explore some of the foreshore of the Great Ocean Road, which is going to be pretty wild. And then we sort of get into the Otways, and, some of the most, epic gravel riding and then mountain biking, around Australia is up in there. It's just beautiful country to cycle through. And then we head back down to the coast, and there's some pretty epic trek legs, to finish off the race, as well as some nice paddling in some of the inland waterways, rivers, and wetlands, which is where I'm at the moment. I'm actually out in the wetlands, which is very nice.
All right, fantastic. Well, it sounds like it's a very multifaceted race, and lots of different parts of Apollo Bay that the racers will get to see. And tell us a bit about the races. I'm sure a lot of them have done plenty of these long distance events before. Are there any returning legends that you've become familiar with, or any high profile athletes that you're aware of?
Yeah, we've got a pretty cool lineup. We've got 15 teams lining up, and there's a few of them that are returned. This will be their second Legend Expedition race, but they have been racing in the space for quite a while. So there's a bunch of sort of just hard, tough, people, legends. You wouldn't know every day that they're so tough, but they come out and do these things every year. We've got the Mountain Designs Wild Women. We've got 2 all-women's teams. They'll be going head-to-head with the Vortex Divas as well. There's a couple of top athletes racing there. We've got a world age group off-road triathlon champion racing, which is pretty cool, Kim, and she's leading the Wild Women. And we have Elena, who she started. People might be familiar with UTA. Has been one of Australia's top adventure races for many years, and she's come out of retirement last year and raced Legend last year and racing again this year. So some pretty tough athletes, and then we've got a bunch of new teams as well. Their first expedition race, maybe biting off more than they can chew. Who knows? But I guess what I love about this sport is people get out there and have a crack and see what they can do. And usually, with the teamwork, they pull over the line, which is amazing.
Well, if you never give it a go, you'll never know. So I'd love to hear that. I've had a look at the map of where the future races are going to be taking place and where it was last year as well. It's pretty cool. You're going through every state and territory between last year and 2030 and working in a clockwise pattern. So last year in Jindabyne, then of course Apollo Bay this year, then on to Tasmania, South Australia, Western Australia, Northern Territory, Queensland, and then in 2030 ACT. So it's great. It's getting all the way around the country to every state and territory, and clearly you've got a pretty good plan for the next few years all the way through to 2030. Yeah,
we've got a pretty solid plan. We when we launched, so there was historically a race in Australia called XPD, and they retired a couple of years ago, and we were in conversation with them, and so we really wanted to see the continuation of expedition racing in Australia, and there's a range of places that expedition races haven't been. So I thought it was a really good opportunity to come up with a concept where we would just pick off highlight legendary locations, I guess, in each state. So we really thought that the Great Ocean Road area and the Otways is such a magnificent area. Obviously, Mount Kosciuszko, Jindabyne, New South Wales, really special. But really looking forward to exploring Tasmania next year, and then into South Australia, and then right around the country. So it'll be really exciting to see. We've got a couple of teams that have done both races so far, and I'm hoping very much that they'll complete the big lap of Australia and knock off all 7 expedition races around Australia. So it'd be pretty exciting to see someone complete a expedition race series right around the country.
Yeah, it'd be very cool. And whereabouts is the race heading in South Australia the year after next? It looks on the map on the website like it's somewhere up near the Flinders Ranges, which would be nice. Is that about right?
Oh, well, it's really up for grabs.
Okay.
Yeah, when I put the dot on the map, I thought, look, I'll stick it in the middle. There's some very cool locations in South Australia. Salt Plains. There's, the Flinders Ranges are just magnificent. But not 100% sure yet. We could get, is it Island offshore? We can get over there. I don't know. We're just in the sort of the concept stage at the moment, and feel free to get in contact and put your best idea forward. I've got a location for Tassie, and we've got some ideas about WA, but a lot of it's a bit flexible, and we're still planning at this stage.
Very good. Well, Kangaroo Island, just off the Fleurieu Peninsula, and off the Fleurieu and the York and the Eyre Peninsula. Really, it's pretty close to all of them, but that is just beautiful. It's such a nice island, and would be such a great spot, and there'd be no shortage of other good spots in the state as well. And just tell us a bit more about yourself, Chris. You're running this race, organising this, but you're doing a whole lot of these all around Australia throughout the year as well. It's not just this one that you're in charge of.
Yeah, so Wild&Co is the business, and we specialise in adventure racing events. So, adventure racing could be anything. We've got a series of short 6-hour races, and they sort of move up and down the east coast from Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Canberra, ACT, and down south of Sydney. So that's 6 hours, and teams travel about 30 kilometres. It's super fun, great for families. Mum and son teams, father-daughter teams, kids race as well, which is pretty exciting. So they're very fun. And then we've got a series of 24-hour and 48-hour races in Queensland and New South Wales and Canberra. We work alongside some people that do stuff in South Australia as well, and other areas. But races like there's sort of these legendary, somewhat a little bit underground races in Australia. Hell's Bells on the Sunshine Coast. It's got a pretty hardcore following of 200-300 people that race that every year. That's been going for nearly or over 20 years, which is exciting. GeoQuest up and down the mid-north coast of New South Wales, and that's been going for nearly 25 years. And that's a 48-hour race, and well marked on the calendar. Lots of really tough people have done that over the years, and then another race in south of Sydney called Terra Nova. That's coming up in April, and we had a really great turnout there. Such a beautiful place to race. 24 hours long. And then we just launched last year the Top Dog 24-hour race in Canberra. Had a fantastic turnout there, paddling in the Murrumbidgee, racing mountain bikes through Stromlo, and then a whole series of other, areas that we're excited to explore. Probably the best thing about this stuff is every year it's a new course, so you're never going over the same ground again. So like Hell's Bells on the Sunshine Coast, we move up and down an 80-kilometre stretch of coastline, so you really get to know and see really unique parts of Australia at odd hours. So, 2 in the morning, you'll be running through the bush with your mates, having a blast and getting lost, finding yourself again. So, it's pretty wild, but, lots of fun to produce and so much fun to see people come over the line having achieved, something that's, absolutely epic. No matter how far the distance.
Sounds very wild, and I'm sure people come back from, especially some of those late night expeditions with some pretty crazy stories, and I'm sure they see some, crazy wildlife and whatnot out in the bush in some of those areas. And you yourself, Chris, are you a racer? Have you undertaken some of these races?
Yeah, I mean, I love to race. I've been out and about in the outdoors since I was a kid. Grew up surfing, swimming, and cycling, and I discovered adventure racing far too late in life. Lots of people discovered it there was a TV series called Eco Challenge, and that ran through the 90s and 2000s, and so lots of people got into the sport then, but I was off travelling when that was on, so I discovered it in 2015 and 16, and did my first 24-hour race, and then 48-hour race, and then more, and I absolutely love it. I probably, just because we run so many of these things, I only get to race once or twice a year now, but whenever I can, we get out and participate. But I get to do my racing pre-race and post-race, putting it out and collecting it. So
Well, how exactly does one get into it? Because like you said, there's some first-time participants in Apollo Bay coming up this weekend, and you said, they might struggle going for their first time. So do you sort of start on the smaller ones and just gradually work your way up, just like with anything?
Yeah, look, I mean, if I was giving advice to people, the best thing you can do is start with a 6-hour race or a short thing, or like the half course on a 24-hour race. It sounds like a big race, but it's very, very achievable. So start with something small and just sort of work out how the system works. We use the same format from 6 hours right through to 6 days. So once you sort of get your mind around how it works, you can certainly progress. And we had people just the last couple of short races say, hey, look, that was awesome. I'm planning to do Hells Bells next. Then I want to do GeoQuest, and then in a few years' time, when Legend goes to WA or Tassie, I want to get ready, so I'm ready to pull that off. So start easy, but hey, sometimes people just jump in at the deep end, and they've got some mates that do it, and if you're broadly fit, you can run a marathon and do a big bike ride. It's amazing what you can do if you just keep putting food in and just keep going.
Might as well jump in and, see if you'll sink or swim. Good way to go about it sometimes. But
absolutely. Yeah.
Certainly wouldn't be testing myself with the 500-kilometre course straight off the bat for this one, that's for sure.
No, probably not so smart.
And what's the volunteer help like? Do you get a lot of volunteers coming in to help out? I imagine it's a pretty big job, preparing the whole course, really.
Look, these things, like everything in the event space, they just wouldn't function without volunteers. And I think for the first few years when we were running the business, it was, while we were getting the name out there and that sort of stuff, it was hard to find people that understood what it meant. But we've got a really great group of people that jump on and help out. And for example, out today, we've got a team of volunteers that have come down a couple of days before the race. They've taken a week off, 2 weeks off work, and really use it as an excuse to go and explore Australia, really. And it really is a great excuse to get out and see some amazing country and do some pretty cool things. So we've got a great team. We've also got a pretty tough, in-house contracting team too that sort the logistics out and all that sort of stuff too. So it's a great community, which is lots of fun.
All right, Chris, we better leave things there, but 24th of February this Saturday, running until the 3rd of March in Apollo Bay. Is there anywhere you can direct people to go if they want to learn more? Do you have a website, Facebook page? Yeah, look,
probably there's two main spots. So to follow this race, do a bit of dot watching, see where teams are up to. Go to the legendxpd.com.au. So that's the Legend Expedition Race website. But the main business website where you can see all the races, including Legend. You go to Wild&Co, do a Google search for that, or wldnco.com. And that's got a list of all the races, that we put on around the country. Or, of course, the Wild&Co Facebook page. We'll have live coverage there. You'll see us running around the course, putting up stories and reels and live video and a bit of commentary too. So the Wild&Co Facebook page is a great way to follow the race. The race is also part of the ARWS Adventure Racing World Series tour. And there's a bit of global exposure too. So teams around the world. Actually, we didn't mention it. Teams here are competing for free entry to the World Championship. So the winning team of the Legend Expedition race will be off to race in Ecuador.
Awesome!
In October this year. So there's a couple of teams I know are chasing that free entry because that's a pretty exclusive opportunity to go and do that. So pretty wild.
Yeah, plenty at stake, and yes, it's going to be a huge race. Chris, thank you very much for popping on to tell us all about it and for giving us all those details. You just brought up something that we missed right at the end there, so in case there is anything else we missed, jump on to those websites or the Facebook page that Chris mentioned. But Chris, thanks very much for your time. All the best with it kicking off this weekend. Hopefully it all goes well for you and for all the people of Apollo Bay and for all the races as well, and I'm sure you and I will speak again sometime.
Mate, that sounds awesome. Thank you very much for the time.